Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Roswell, New Mexico. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Obviously, we're kind of picking up where that ending with Max was, and I completely got it wrong. I thought, it's supposed to be maybe Max as well and everything. It's like, maybe all the thing that Michael did kind of worked out, but it's like, that ending was suggesting actually Max pulled the plug on himself because of what Michael had did. It was actually making him stronger, obviously to the point he could actually feel Isabel and everything that and obviously reach out to Rosa and everything. But the whole thing was Rosa ends up talking about the fact is that that Max didn't want to live, that he actually wanted to die. That was something she hadn't told anyone about that, about those nightmares she was having about him saying all that stuff. And now they realize he pulled the plug on himself. This is what he wanted. He was strong enough to make it happen. So now it becomes a situation of well, what did they do? Because now a good chunk of the episode is basically everyone kind of dealing with this, especially Isabel and Michael. Michael's suggesting Isabel has to be the one to kind of decide what happens going forward. And she's like, why is it? Oh, I get it. Because basically the sad thing is Michael's always felt like the black sheep because he always kind of felt like the most an outsider because Max and Isabel were there, but he always kind of felt like he wasn't a part of it just because they're the ones that were adopted. He was brought up in the very complicated foster system and stuff. He didn't have a happy family like they did. They didn't grow up together, but Max and Isabel in particular, Max always tried to reach out and try to be there. So it's for Isabel, it's not just on me, and it's not on you. This is what Max wants, he's the one that made this decision. We kind of have to, essentially respect that because at the end of the day, it's not just me and Max. It's you, me, and Max. It's all three of us because we constantly see flashbacks of when Michael was younger. He kept pushing Max away. Anytime Max would extend a hand, he's like, no. Anytime he'd push him and Isabel away just because honestly, it was easier to push people away than accept their love because Michael always found conditional love. He never felt unconditional love, where it just feels for him, it's love and trust with people. It's always a fleeting thing. He never believed it to be something that could always constantly be concrete. So basically his defense mechanism was to push people away until they gave up on him. But sadly, for Michael, Max never gave up on him. Max kind of went above and beyond. It's instead of Isabel thinking you're the killer, with the whole Rosa situation, put it on me. But he's no, she won't believe that. She knows you. And the fact is, it leads to you having to answer a lot of questions. Even to the fact is that Max became a cop so that in case Michael ever did go too far or whatever, he'd have someone on the inside to basically fight for him and kind of give him a chance. So it's just a situation where it's because even Alex and Maria are having their conversations about the whole situation, realizing why Michael does what he does. Even they recognize the whole thing of he pushes people away. But obviously it's because for Alex, he sees kind of that violence, that anger that's in Michael. And obviously Maria's I get it. You grew up with that and stuff like that. So obviously you wouldn't want that kind of in your relationship. But at the end of the day, it's Maria doesn't want, because Maria originally came over there because she's forgiving Alex. She's not speaking to the others, but she has forgiven Alex, because it's well, to be fair, I was dating Michael behind your back and everything like that. So it's kind of almost for her, well, let's kind of call it even with the secrets and stuff like that. But obviously, her mom has a computer and everything, and it's oh, the history's cleared. At first she's thinking oh, maybe her mom did, but it's you think that, but who's to say someone else didn't clear that history to kind of cover up what your mom was actually looking up? Because she's oh, my mom has her secrets, maybe it's not my place to know those secrets or whatever. But then Alex is everyone's entitled to their secrets, right? Basically saying you should give them a second, or in particular give Liz a second chance because you're willing to let your mom have her secrets. But obviously Liz, she kept her secrets for a reason too. It's just, so kind of oh, can you be so okay with your mom keeping secrets but still be pissed at Liz for it, So that's a whole, complicated, thing in itself. And obviously, another angle to this is the whole situation of basically they want to bring Max back long enough so they can say goodbye, because for what hurts Liz the most is literally everyone else has a connection with him, so they can talk to him. Because of her abilities, Isabel can talk to Max. Because of those handprints, even though it's in these nightmares and these dreams, Rosa can see him. But Liz, it's like she used to dream of Rosa all the time after she died, and it's like, but she can't dream of Max, and everyone else around her is able to have this connection with Max, see him, talk to him, but she can't. She doesn't get the chance to say goodbye like anyone else would be able to. So she wants her chance. They want to basically install the heart, but the heart's not in good enough condition for that. So if they do it, he can only, if it does work, he's only going to be alive long enough for like a couple minutes maybe. But for Liz, it's like, that's what I need. I mean, I think at the end of the day, sadly, there's never going to be enough time. Like, even if it's like, oh, I just need this 1 minute, that 1 minute will come and go. And it's like, I mean, at the same time, it's like, how can you tell someone like how much, like, what's closure for them or not? Even though you might, but you're always going to want more. That 1 minute's never going to be enough. But it's like, but that 1 minute is one more than you would have gotten before, So it's always kind of an interesting thing. Isabel wants to kind of talk to Max about this whole thing, because she's starting to think like, Rosa, it might be just kind of like your drug crazed imagination and stuff like that. She's like, honestly, I don't have time to be my pleasant self with this whole situation. So it's like, yeah, I can only see Max in our dreams. She's like, yeah, I know, and knocks her out, and then uses her power to go inside her mind. She's like, you literally hit me over the head with a thesaurus. And then but the place they're in, because typically it's the town, but it's like dark and stormy, and just the place looks kind of like barren, and it's like, what's going on here? It's more nightmarish than it usually is, but I think it's because Max is fading away, like the construct that would be the town is fading with him. So when they end up showing up, like, there's like stuff around from like the restaurant and stuff, or was it the bar? I think it's the restaurant, but it's like there's only a few things there, not even an actual building, showing that he is fading away. And so Max explains he wants to die. And what's interesting though is too, he explains that this isn't just about, the whole situation of like, oh, he's in so much pain because like Noah's thing, because like I didn't even think about it, because they didn't think about it either, and I didn't even click my mind. But the reason why he was able to feel everything is that's why Noah basically went crazy, because even though he was hibernating, his pod was messed up, so he could feel and experience everything. That's what kind of drove him insane. I mean, who's to say he was the most sane person to begin with, but at least he went rather insane because of the conditioning of his pod. So of course Max would feel everything that he's feeling, because he's basically awake while not being awake at the same time, But nevertheless, Max basically explains, like, he's like, oh yeah, like, because anytime he used his powers before, he'd kind of have to like let off like a massive like charge after like so much got built up in him. We'd seen instances of that in season 1. He's like, I've come to understand it, that basically with suffering and death, there's a transfer of energy. So when he brought Rosa back to life, that 10 years of death, of loneliness, of just all of that emptiness, it went into him. And for him, he's like, I don't want to come back, because if I do, it's not going to be well. Like, I don't want to hurt you guys. And so he wants to say his goodbyes, and Isabel's like, okay, I understand. But Max isn't stupid. He's like, I know my sister. She's not going to let me go. She's going to say like she is, but you can't let them bring me back, Rosa. It's like, whatever it takes. These are the people we care about most. You have to do whatever it takes to protect them, because I don't want to hurt the people I love, And obviously that includes Isabel, that includes Michael, that includes Liz as well. So, but when Rosa wakes up, Isabel's locked her in a closet. And even when Isabel explains this to Liz about what's happening, her explanation for it's like, well, it's a transfer of energy, right? So for her, it's like, if I get strong enough, because obviously she's been getting more and more powerful. It's like, if I get strong enough, I can absorb whatever Max throws at me, that energy, I can be the one that, takes the brunt of it. I can absorb it. It just needs to be a transfer of energy, right? But the thing is, part of me was like, but I think she's completely misinterpreting it. It's not just like, I don't think it's going to be as simple as, maybe it is just going to be as simple as expelling it. But that thing is, that energy does need to go somewhere. And if it does go in you, I mean, this is going to be a conversation for later on, but it's like, if that energy goes into you, who's to say you don't go full dark side because of it? And who's to say Max is ever going to be 100% the same? Like, who's to say what he got inside of him isn't so much that even if he expels 90% of it, there's that 5%, there's that, doing terrible math there, that 10%, because I think in my head I was thinking I said 95% when in actuality I said 90%. But who's to say that 10% doesn't latch on and it changes him forever? I mean, I think that's kind of an interesting thing. Like, death kind of does something to you. It's kind of like very interesting. Like another CW property to kind of compare it to. It's like the Vampire Diaries. Remember what happened to Alaric when he kept dying over and over again? The rains kept bringing him back to life, but eventually they found out like, oh, it's actually not a good thing to keep coming back to life because that kind of like takes a toll on you. It does the whole thing. I can't remember whether it's like you straight up go psychopathic or whether they got possessed by a ghost. I think it was you just straight up go psychopathic if I remember correctly. Like, but that might be the thing with Max of like when you've kind of been like, because he never died, but he's absorbed the energy of someone who's been dead for 10 years, and that probably does something to your insides and kind of rots you. That's what I think Isabella's kind of missing with the conversation. But obviously, you know, the whole situation is Michael was kind of avoiding being around Max during the situation because for him, he just feels like I don't need to be there. I don't deserve to kind of be there because it's just kind of like, you know, it's just, you know, Max, you know, is in this situation. Why? Because he's always saving people. Always trying to save me and be there for me. I never wanted his help. I never asked for it. But it's not until he was working on Max's truck that it kind of inspired him on actually how to help Max. And basically, inadvertently, we end up finding out later on, he basically created an alien, a makeshift alien pacemaker. So when they're about to perform the surgery and everything, it's kind of like this is it. We got to do whatever we can, like whatever time we have with Max, we kind of have to go for it because, you know, it's what Isabel needs. It's what Liz needs in this situation. So, but Michael shows up and it's like the pacemaker can work for months. So I get that the plan is to kind of keep this heart in him beating long enough and long enough for them to get Noah's heart in good enough condition so that, you know, they can actually transplant it and they don't have to worry about his current heart. But then again, you start thinking like, transfer, like, there's actually been talks about that before in certain regards of like, you know, when you get certain aspects from another person, like their DNA kind of mixing into you, like who's to say on a, because their bodies are like, their alien bodies are kind of like technology. So in Noah's organs is basically the code, maybe what is essentially kind of his source code, what he is, could be in his organs because they're like you said, their species is a little kind of like technologically based. So who's to say the moment you put Noah's heart inside of him, Max doesn't become a little Noah, that a little bit of Noah's, you know, like I said, take that 10% of like Noah's darkness is still remnant there to kind of mess with Max and mix with him. That could be a thing. Regardless, they end up going through the surgery, use a pacemaker, but Max starts dying. Obviously, Rosa shows up because she made a promise to Max to stop it, but he's starting to die anyway. So I was like, oh, I guess you don't have to interfere. And obviously, it's kind of like, you know, everyone, because like this, you know, Isabel goes inside of Max's head because she wants to be there for him when the time comes, so he doesn't have to die alone. But then, when it's all said and done, though, like Rosa was supposed to let him die, but she couldn't because she saw how much pain Liz was in. Because Max was like, you, Michael, and Liz will get by it, you know. You will move on without me. This is kind of for the better. But Rosa, looking at her sister so hurt like that, she couldn't do that. She couldn't let her sister be in so much pain like that. So I don't know if anyone else witnessed what she did, but the fact is she used her powers and ended up electrocuting at the same time, like, because they needed more amplitude, because she's basically got alien powers now. Now, whether that stays forever or is that something that'll eventually fade, you know, we'll see. But she was able to kind of supercharge Max's heart so he's alive, but they basically have to put him in a coma until he kind of fully recovers. And obviously, I love, like, you know, the moment between Max, you know, Max and Michael, where Michael's kind of saying all that stuff. And we even see at one point he ends up getting the tattoo at the end of the episode. He's showing up because it's like, you're right. It's no, like, the fact of the matter is I gave that pacemaker for you. So, like, now it's like anytime, like, you have any issues and you get that little kick in your heart, basically think that's me basically this is my hero moment to kind of pay back for all the, you know, all the sacrificing and all the hero moments you had. So, you know, call us even. So come back so we can be a family. Like, you know, Michael's done kind of being separated. It's like, nah, like, we're in this together. It's all three of us, you know? And so with that, you know, Liz is sitting down with Rosa, and Maria comes over, and it's like, it's like, so at least they're kind of, obviously Maria being there, like, I guess she eventually got informed on everything that's going down, maybe. She probably, because Alex didn't seem like he was explaining it earlier, but it's probably not till now that it's kind of like, oh, like, it's probably because later on it's like, oh, where's Isabel? It's like, she's getting prepared for what? And Liz is probably having to explain then, It's also interesting, too, because, like, Kyle obviously performing the surgery and everything, like, him and Alex having a drink, because it's just like, this is our damn lives. And obviously, what did Kyle say, like, when it was all said and done? Because he was like, yeah, like, I'm here for you, Liz. You never have to pay me back, because that's what family's for. But once again, what did he say last episode? They need a break from each other, because it's the only way he's going to be able to move on with his life, kind of live the life he kind of deserves and should live and lead. But he can't, like, if he's constantly being that rock, that, foundation for Liz. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of where that kind of ends up taking him. Obviously, the whole complicated Michael, Alex, and Maria thing. Like, Maria might not necessarily be 100% where she can be and needs to be towards forgiving him. I'm curious to see what this Rosa situation would potentially look like going forward with Max, because Max begged her to be the one to do it, because he figured out of anyone, I guess because of her feelings towards him, it's like it'd be the easiest for. But even despite how she might feel about Max, her feelings for Max have changed because of how important he is to Liz, and like how obviously like Liz, it's everything to her too. So it's like everyone's looking out for their siblings type of situation. Obviously, Isabel and Michael are looking out for Max. And, Rosa is looking out for Liz. So everyone has their own motives for basically keeping Max around. Like, So it's a very complicated synergy to the whole situation. So, but then we kind of get that 3-week time skip. And obviously, Isabel, it's like, now I get to kind of be a part of this whole thing, because you're the one that gets to make those, now you're not the only one who gets to make those sacrifices, so it's kind of like, basically it's just a transfer of energy, and basically implying like, if it kind of comes down to it, we kind of almost go together, and it's very befitting them being the twins and everything, that and it's so interesting because he is kind of supposed to be the savior, but them being twins, it makes you wonder, is it kind of like a flip side to it? If he's supposed to be the savior, do they think that's supposed to make her kind of the devil type of thing? I'm just curious as that what that's kind of supposed to be. They never said, like, just once again, that's just based on what Noah said. Or it just could be, maybe it's kind of a flip, like where it's like Max could be the savior, or he could be the destroyer. Isabel could be the savior, or she could be the destroyer. Maybe it's kind of like what one is, the other is the opposite. Maybe it's like their destinies are so interchangeable, kind of like a yin-yang situation. They bring a balance to each other. And so, I don't know. Maybe they'll get into the ins and outs of that. Maybe not. Maybe it won't get that intricate. Maybe it's just like Max's situation is just Max's situation. I don't know. It just makes me wonder about all of that. But I am curious to see how they handle this going forward. Is it going to be a thing of like, we're living in that 3-week period of like, okay, Max is awake and now the showdown between him and Isabel, and then it moves on? Or are we going to go back to like, okay, that 3-week time skip is where we're leading up to, and eventually we show you what went down in those 3 weeks, because we went straight from Isabel's preparing to we're here to that moment he's awake. Like, who knows what went down in that time frame? Maybe in the next episode bounces back and forth of like, part of the episode is present day between them fighting, and then cutting back to what happened in that 3-week period. I don't know. I'm curious to see how they ultimately end up handling, and it's going to definitely be interesting to see what direction this ultimately all ends up taking going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.